Hey, I'm here with a list of demands. Follow the show wherever you listen. Subscribe, share, like, and comment on the show on YouTube. Follow any and all of my social media as well. All of the links are in the description. And finally, if you're a real fan, which most of you aren't, head on over to buymeacoffee.com, use the link in my description, and buy me a goddamn coffee. It supports the show, which is me. So you're supporting me. Now that you've successfully ignored that, go ahead and enjoy today's episode. Good morning, everybody. I hope we're all doing well, fresh off of the holiday weekend. In this episode, I'll be saying nothing about what happened during my holiday weekend because it has not happened yet, but I know what will be happening. I am going to be working Saturday and Sunday all day because why the fuck not? I can't think of a better way to spend a holiday like Christmas than to be working, especially at a place that gives you holiday pay. You see, this is where you got to make strategic decisions. The entire months of November and December, you spend tons of money. If you get the opportunity to work on the day that you spent all the money for so that you can regain those funds, then you got to do it. You got to make that decision. I mean, it only makes sense, especially after you spend $600 at a strip club out of your savings that are supposed to be helping you when you're getting ready to move in a few months. So that's what I'll be doing right now as I'm sitting here talking to you guys. It is the Friday before Christmas. I had to bang this episode out beforehand. I try not to do it this early, but I had to this time because I will be doing 14-hour days on both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day because, like I said, there is holiday pay involved. You got to get paid, baby. Is a day going to stop you from getting money? Is a day going to stop you from getting money? Right? And now here's the thing. When you get older, right? When you're in a position like I am, if you're a single person, you live alone, your family's in another state, the only plus side to a holiday like Christmas or your birthday is it's a pay period. You follow what I'm saying? It is a time for you to get some extra cash. It's like tax season. It's a time where your hard work of just existing, right? Because nobody tells you that just to do that is hard work. You get paid for it, right? You made it to another Christmas. Christmas is like, hitting go. You know how you land on go, you get extra money right before you start going around the board again on Monopoly? You land on go, you get more money, right? So when you land on Christmas, bang, money to be made. But see, I'm such a baller that right before I landed on go, I own Boardwalk. So someone landed on Boardwalk, so I got some money there. And Boardwalk, in this analogy, is me working at Mohegan Sun. And then the day after, Monday, which is now for you guys, I'll be getting money from the family. You know, isn't it good? That's the main... People look at Christmas and they forget. They want to imagine that it's a time for love and family, and people travel from all over the place, and it's a time where you get to relax and just be almost like you're a kid again, right? You go to your parents or your aunts, and all the family's around, and the cousins, and people are doing whatever, and it's supposed to be nice, and that's a nice idea, right? That's the picture that's painted for us, is to go absolutely crazy and engulf your life in preparation for this day for as long as you need to. For some people, it's the whole month of December. For some people, it's
the entire, once August ends, the finale is Christmas. So people forget that the whole reason we enjoy that holiday in any capacity is the gifts. People want to fuck around and say, well, it's this and it's that. But no, it's the gifts. It is the gifts. And when you get to a certain age where your family doesn't really know what to get you anymore, and you just tell them money. Money, just give me money. Just pay me. Pay me for this day. It's the only day where you can just say that, and your birthday, where you could just say, pay me. If you're going to give me a gift anyway, just give me the money. And that's what it is. And people have lost sight of that as time kind of goes on, right? People want to pretend that, I'm getting older now. I don't have so many of these left, blah, blah, blah. Don't you know that things matter more than any emotion that you could feel? It matters far more than the warm embrace of your family on a cold Christmas night while you all sit there and reminisce, nostalgia, talk about life, I'm sure that's what's going on in every American household during Christmas. People are contemplating the big questions in life. I'm sure that's what's going on. But it's such a weird thing because everyone has those family members that you don't see until something like this happens, right? It doesn't even need to be Christmas. It could be anything else. You don't see them unless there's a reason, right? And I like that. I do. I like that because as someone who doesn't, as someone who only looks at his immediate family to regard them as family, I like that. I like not having to deal with cousins and whatever the fuck else, aunts and uncles. I don't have a bunch of those anyway, right? My mom is a single child. My dad's brothers are all in other countries, so I don't really and I don't have a lot of cousins either. I guess on my mom's side I do, but most of them aren't my age, right? My family on that side doesn't have a bunch of kids. My uncle, my grandfather's brother is still around. He had 4 kids, and then they all had, between those 4, there's 2, right? There's 2 kids. So I have 2 first cousins on that side. Neither of which, they're my cousins. I don't want to talk bad about them, but I'm not stressed when I haven't called them, right? Like if I'm sitting around like, shit, I haven't called my grandmother in a little bit. I haven't talked to my brother in a week. I haven't called my parents. I don't really think about calling, anybody in my extended family. I am completely content with seeing them every 2 years when I decide to pop out to a 4th of July cookout or a random, not even just some summertime cookout, and I just decide to show up, and I have sunglasses on the whole time because I'm high, and I sit there and I just kind of sit on the outskirts, like I always am. I'm always on the outskirts anyway. But if you want to feel less like, if you want to feel as far away from a family member as you can, that's the way to do it, right? That's the way to do it. It's to go and just not bother with anybody. Anytime I go to one of my family events, I sit with my immediate family. I don't go to talk to my cousin. I don't know. Maybe I'm just whatever. But growing up, my mom and my grandmother would always complain, they never invite us, or we never see them. We see them once a year. Good. Why are we still complaining about it? Who gives a fuck? Do I really want to sit there and listen to my fucking cousin talk about how they can only drink Diet Coke even though they're putting back whiskeys all day? Right? I only drink Diet Coke. I can't drink water. I hate water. I really hate water. Isn't that crazy how there's some people that walk around that cannot drink water? That's how far away we've gotten. Like, we are so far away from being biologically in tune with ourselves that we can't even drink water. There's people walking around that when they're parched, when they're thirsty, when they're, what some would call dehydrated, they can't drink water. They just can't stand to do it. And then they say, well, I like the ones with the bubbles. Sometimes you get the bubbles, they got a little flavor in. Yeah, because it's reminiscent of soda, right? It's better than soda, don't get me wrong. And the people that usually say that drink maybe one of those every few months, right? They'll have a seltzer water every few months, pretend that they like it, choke it down, and then in the next hour get a Diet Coke or something, right? I mean, and there's worse things than Diet Coke, but it's funny to me how we're always shocked when we hear that the things we use on the daily basis can be bad for us. Like the other day, I was sitting down talking to Chris Sandberg, who's been on the show. He actually got one of the biggest, one of his videos, or one of the videos that he was in that I put up, got one of the most views. I think it's the second most views on this entire channel, because he's hilarious. He's one of the funniest. And we hung out, and we were sitting there, and I was on mushrooms, and everything he said was hilarious. And we were just, sometimes you hit a rhythm with that friend of yours, and you guys are just bang, bang, bang going after it. And it's great, and that's what we were doing while we were driving around in a rainstorm while I was on mushrooms and I was driving. So not good, folks. Not a great idea. But before that, we were sitting in his apartment, and we were talking about, I think he brought up microwaves. And now microwaves, every time I've ever heard about microwaves, any conversation is either, hey, there's the microwave right there, or it's something bad, right? It's people don't usually have conversations about a microwave unless they heard something terrible about it, right? Don't stare into the microwave. That's what people used to say. Don't stare into the microwave. Don't ever stare into a microwave. It'll fuck you up somehow. Radiation, right? I mean, it's called a microwave. Like, the food is being cooked and heated up through microwaves. Okay, that's the thing. People don't understand that. It's like when you tell somebody, when you bring up Cinco de Mayo and they ask you what day it's on, right? I've had that happen to me. Really? It's May 5th? Yeah. Look up the name of the holiday. But anyway, I was sitting there with him, and we started talking about microwaves. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if you guys knew this, but anytime you put food in a microwave, it's bad, right? And he gave me some breakdown of what he had heard. And I'm like, yeah. And then I go and we're kind of exchanging stories about awful things that we use on the regular. And I'm like, yeah, plastics, right? Those who have listened to that episode, the Joe Rogan episode with Dr. Shanna Swan, she wrote the whole book about how microplastics are directly affecting the testosterone level of males. And it's dropping, right? The sperm counts are dropping and the whole thing. And, plus you hear all the time that people are having less sex, right? Young people, which is insane, right? You'd think, knowing the imminent demise of society and culture as we know it, people would be fucking like bunny rabbits night and day. But I guess not. I guess people are so scared and so whatever that they're not interested. I don't know. But then I started telling them about plastics and all the plastic we have in our house. And even if you have something that doesn't even come in plastic, there's no plastic around it, it probably went through a supply chain of plastic machinery, going through plastic machinery tools. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like fruit, right? You go to the store, there's no the produce that's sitting out that isn't in plastic boxes like berries, like a fucking apple. You pick up the apple, there's no plastic on it, but the machinery that it went through to pass inspection or whatever, that it's good enough to get to a grocery store, probably had a lot of plastic in there that rubbed, and we started talking about that, and then he brought up air fryers and how I guess air fryers have, I don't know if he said lead, I don't think lead, but he said something that's not good. And I go to him and I'm like, you can't do anything nowadays. And he's like, yeah, you can't fucking do shit. And it's funny because I'm on mushrooms at the time. And obviously mushrooms, everything that you think about is profound. And you notice cycles and the cyclical nature of things. And I advocate for them, obviously, all the time. They're great. And I'm sitting there. And I know the type of person that Chris Sandberg is. He's very, I live in the real world, reality. He's not worried about consciousness or changing his mind. You know, he's a smart kid, very smart kid. But you know the type of person I'm talking about. It's a guy who lives not in the abstract. They don't even worry about that shit. They worry about what's going on now, what's right the fuck in front of them. And that's a great way to interface with the world, right? He's very much this person is very much a one-track mind, real life, very rarely pondering the complex, the complex nature of our existence. Something that doesn't even pass through his mind, I'm sure, on a regular basis. Not like someone like me or some of the other people I know, which is why I don't know if he'd even be interested in mushrooms. But I'm sitting there listening to this, and I'm like, yeah, we can't do anything anymore. But then I thought, and I knew that it would resonate with him. He's like, yeah, Jesus Christ, you can't even fucking live. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, that's everything that I oppose. But it's funny, right? It's funny that was, in that moment, I was like, yeah, Jesus, you can't do shit. And then I was like, wait a second. Of course you can't do shit. We're not supposed to be doing any of this shit, right? And I guess saying supposed to or not supposed to is assuming or me trying to predict. Like, how do I know we're not supposed to do what we're doing, right? Just because it's not natural, it's not the natural. I'm just more of a naturalist, humanist, whatever. You guys understand the type of fucking person I am by this point. 257 episodes in. I think you guys understand what I come with. But every day, there's always some shit that says, well, you can't do this. Don't drink water. Don't scratch your ass. If you scratch your ass too hard, you're going to you'll get infected. You'll get an infection that'll burn your asshole inside out. Yes, that's right. You'll have an inside-out hanging asshole if you scratch it too hard. Like, it's never ending. There's always something new that they throw at us. But I wanted to make a point about how when you're under the influence of psilocybin, obviously things are very profound, a lot more profound than normal. You feel different ways about different things. You're a lot more talkative. But there's one thing that I've noticed that Corey DiGiulio, who was also on the podcast at one point, good friend of mine, brought up, and it was cycles, right? You kind of notice, well, I've been here before, or you watch things, and while I was hanging out with Chris last week, I was watching his kid run around, and he's got a kid that's a little over a year old, and he's running around, and I'm watching his reaction to things, and every little thing is like a new groundbreaking discovery. Like little babies like that, all they want is textures and sounds and feeling, right? Like not just emotional, but physical feeling and touch. You know, they're very intuitive. Not intuitive. They're very intrigued. Is that the word? They want to feel everything. They want to know everything, right? There's a lot to learn from a fucking like a baby like that. Like imagine if you as an adult could still be that way in some sense. As curious as a fucking baby, you know? And I'm watching him, and I'm like, God, it was trippy, literally. Like, it was literally a strange thing where I'm watching this 1-year-old, little over a year-old fucking being walking around figuring things out. And I'm like, God damn. I was that. We were all that. And you look, and you're like, oh, whoa. What are the awful things that child is going to do when he gets to be older? When is he going to shed his moral compass, huh? When do you think he'll eat some mushrooms and look at his friend's kid and think similar stuff? You know? It is crazy, though, because sometimes you think and you're like, wait, I wasn't... You remember your age, right? And I'm 25, so there's times where I think about when I'm 16 and 15 and I'm like, 25, you should be in a place of security. You should know where your life's going, and you should be on this kind of whatever, this tried and true path, right? You should have things figured out by 25. 25 is the time for you to start building for when you're 65. Imagine looking so far ahead. Already from 15 to 25, your mind is so skewed in a way because you know nothing about life, right? Your whole life up until that point has been regimented. All you know is school. All you know is having a structure to your day that's already kind of been given to you, right? I mean, part of it you don't even need to choose. The big part, 8 hours of your day, is being in school. You don't even need to choose that. I mean, I guess you can choose to not go to school, right? But anything else extra to that, you choose. Like I'm talking about hobbies and clubs and sports and that type of thing. But even that's all attached to the main entity of school. You don't need to worry about anything else. So you have no idea about life. You don't understand that there's feelings that go into whatever you're trying to do. You don't understand that many of us are fluid beings. Many of us are complex, fluid fucking animals walking around trying to navigate this landscape that we've created of jobs and money and trying to get ahead and trying to be successful and having this idea of fulfillment. You don't understand any of that. You don't. And then you get slapped in the face with it at a certain age, usually comes right after you graduate college, and it's either, wait a second, I don't know if this is what I want to do, or it's, hey, this is what I want to do, and you go after it, and that's great, and that's great. If you're that type of person, that's awesome, and I wish nothing but the fucking best for you. But there's a lot of people who come out and they're like, wait a second, I didn't put any thought into this. I didn't know that there's other factors. I thought you just go through this and then you get your piece of paper, you get your designation, and now you go, right? Isn't that it? You just, there's no feeling, there's no sense of why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? And some people don't have those feelings. And some people have those feelings and still enjoy whatever it is that they chose at 23 or 20, and then they go on and be very successful, and they do it the whole rest of their life, and they have a great life and they enjoy it. But your mind is so conditioned to think that 10 years from now, when you're a kid, 10 years from then, oh yeah, we're going to have some things are going to be in place, and we're going to start working toward our even more distant fucking future. Like, I'm sitting here as a 25-year-old, and I remember something that a financial, I guess you want to call him advisor, but he's bigger than that now, a guy named Brian Falconer, who I met through a friend's mom when I was trying to be a financial advisor. And, I mean, this guy's big time. Like, he's got a lot of money. He just opened up an office, his own office. He was working for Securian, which was a big, or is a big money services firm, financial services firm. And now he's got his own. I mean, he's big time. Big time. He's got a lot of money. And I remember sitting there, meeting him for the first time, and he talked my fucking ear off, stared me in the eye the whole time. Nice guy, charismatic guy, interesting guy. But I remember something very specific that he said to me, where he goes, the best people, the people who get the most done, don't worry about what they didn't do yesterday or what they did do yesterday. They don't worry about what they're going to do tomorrow. They worry about what the fuck they can do today, specifically right now. Right this second. They're worried about that. And that's a great way to live. I think it's a great way to live. I'm 25, and that's something that I play in my head all the fucking time. Now, don't get me wrong. You can't just do that. But some people worry so much about so far away. That's why people start these jobs. That's why people start these jobs so early. Is because they understand the idea of compounding interest. Compounding interest is something that has been ingrained in everyone's minds since, I don't know, high school, right? Probably high school finance classes. Compounding interest is something that we are supposed to hold in a crazy regard, and it is, right? I mean, it's true. If you start a 401k or a Roth IRA or whatever, and you max it out from when you're 23 until you're 65, you're going to have a lot of fucking money there. You are. And it's untaxed and the whole thing, and it's great. And we're supposed to look at that as a massive advantage. So that's why people start early. You want to get a job so you can get an investment thing so you can prepare for your retirement. People want to prepare for the finish line. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? People live their entire lives preparing for an imaginary finish line. Because if you don't die 2 years after that, you still got some living to do. And what do those people do? They get a part-time job. They can't sit still. Even though they got great fucking retirement and great benefits and everything, some people but they're bored. I'm going to go work at a D'Angelo's fucking 15 hours a week, cashing people out. I'm fucking bored. I want to go and make comments you can't make to people anymore in the workplace. I work with this old man at Mohegan Sun. All right, he works for FanDuel. I technically work for Mohegan Sun because I work in the food and beverage department. This guy technically works for FanDuel because I don't know. I don't know really. He just kind of stands around, and come to think of it, I don't know really what he does. He kind of acts as like a liaison. He just kind of stands there. People have questions with the kiosks. He's able to help a little bit. But he's this old guy. Probably, if I had to guess, close to 70. I don't think he's 70, but close. Right? Maybe he's 7. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Who gives a fuck? But he always has some, like, filthy shit to say. And everyone's always in awe. They're like, my goodness, because back when he was young, you could say that shit. You could say, wow, Janice, nice legs. Those shoes look nice. I want to stick my tongue in between those feet, Janice. Why don't you pop your pussy for all of us right now, Janice? How about that? But back in the day, you could do that while you're smoking a cigarette inside, you know, with those big 70s wiry glasses. You could do that in those days, and now you can't. So it's funny to see a guy like that. And he was in the military. So, you know, the military, I would think they have some decent benefits for when you get older, you know, if I had to guess. And I apologize for those watching on YouTube right now. It is getting darker in the room because of the storm. But I think we'll be fine. I don't think we'll have to turn the lights on. Anyway, I digress. That's why people they start so early, because they're looking years and years away. I mean, holy fuck, who knows if you even make it to then? Right? Who knows if you even make it to then? That's the biggest worry. Now, another worry is, yeah, you make it to then, and now you ain't got no fucking money. You can't work like you used to when you were a kid, and that's not good either, right? That's not a good thing. So it's tough. You can't just live by the seat of your pants every fucking moment, but you also can't plan so much and plan so far ahead that you don't do. You don't act. And that is, you know, that's a big dilemma for some people. And for me, for the type of person I am, I don't necessarily want to be inundated for, 50 years or 40 years or whatever the fuck it is, doing the same thing forever and ever and ever. And, and not saying, can't say the wrong thing in front of the wrong people, and being very cautious about how you act around your coworkers, and you can't do this, and the water cooler talk. Oh, put a fucking gun in my mouth. Anytime I think of a bunch of young professionals, right? That's what we call them nowadays. A bunch of young professionals sitting around talking about nothing, right? Did you see Aaron Rodgers last night? Well, my fantasy team, I don't care to talk about that stuff. I want to hear some wild shit. What the fuck did you do this weekend? What did you do this weekend? Did you do anything good? No? You went to the same bar, drank 3 beers, watched the baseball game with your buddy fucking Jared, and you guys went home. That was it. You didn't do nothing else. No drugs, no partying, no women, nothing. Well, then fuck, dude. What are we around for? And I'm not saying that that's what these people do. I'm sure there's plenty of people who have nice corporate office jobs who get the fuck down. They get wild and crazy whenever they can, and good. Good for you, too. But it's just as I sit here at 25, yes, I have ideas of where I'd like to be in so many years, but they're not concrete. They're not set in stone. You know, it's it's something I'm working towards. But again, I've mentioned this before on the show. We've been fed the illusion that if you work hard for something and you believe it to that it'll happen, and you make, you know, the right move, that it'll happen. Doesn't always happen that way, guys. Does not always happen that way. And I mean, it depends what your measure of success is. It depends what you want, you know. And then you get into the idea of wants and wanting, and that's, you know, that's a slippery slope as well, because wants change; they're fickle. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I'll be in the next 10 years. I have an ideal idea about it, but I just think that there's a big problem with people not living in the now. Like last Thursday, I went out with some friends, and we went to a bar, and there was it was more of a club, right? It was a hookah lounge. And there was a live drummer with a DJ. Dope. So dope. The DJ's playing, you know, like dance hall beats and or different songs, and this guy's playing to the fucking to the music, and it's so dope. And there was a moment where this gorgeous woman, absolutely fucking beautiful, goes up. They give her the microphone. She must be a singer. People must know who she is in the area. I didn't know who she was. And they give her the microphone, and she starts singing. Fuck, it's such a good song, and I'm forgetting what it is. Oh, I feel terrible, because it was great. It was absolutely phenomenal, because she starts singing, the drummer picks it up, and then now the DJ is throwing beats in, and these three people who know each other enough to interact in a way that's, you know, public and whatever. But that didn't seem rehearsed. It didn't seem rehearsed. For me standing there watching, it did not seem rehearsed. It seemed like they gave her the microphone. She started singing the first song that came to her head. And the drummer started picking it up. And then the DJ was like, let me add to this. And he started adding to it. And it was so fucking good. And you know what everybody was doing? Other than singing along, some people, you know what a lot of people were doing? Filming. Pulling out cameras and fucking filming what was going on. And I get it, okay? I understand. You want, it's an interesting moment. And what's wild about now is when people have moments like that, when people are in a situation like that, their first reaction isn't to watch and take it in. Their first reaction is to pull out a phone and to film it and to show other people. Isn't that kind of wild? Do people not think about that sometimes? Like, anytime I'm witnessing independent artistry, especially something like that, something as magical as three people just on the fly creating an arrangement of music that worked so fucking well, guys. I'm telling you, I mean, this woman could sing. I don't know who she is. I wish I knew who the fuck she was. And I wish I remember the goddamn song. It's one of those legendary fucking, I don't know. It might have been Lauryn Hill. I can't remember what fucking song she was singing, but it was so goddamn good. And these three people just made a moment in time that others are refusing to live in. Or at very least, the way that they're choosing to live in it is like, it's superficial, because you want to film it and then you can put it up on your Instagram and people will look at it and whatever. You know, it's almost like and I do the same thing. Not in those moments, but with other stuff, right? Like, I sparred last week. I'm totally going to put up some videos of that. You know, look at me sparring. Look at that. I want people to fucking comment. I'm just like anybody else. I'm not necessarily putting people down. But for me, when I'm there watching something as magnificent as that, I really want to take it in. I want to take it in. you know. And if I film it, it's for a fucking second, or I take a picture or what, and that doesn't justify it just because it's quick. No. I still think that's bad, right? I still think there's a part of me that's like, fuck, dude, why'd you do that? Who gives a fuck? Why'd you have to film it? You want people to swipe up and talk about it or tell their friends, like, Antonio, you know. Why do you want that? And I don't know. I just think that when you're in the presence of something as interesting as that, it's my gut reaction is to watch and just be engulfed by it. Be engulfed by it. Allow yourself to be taken by the fucking moment. Some people they won't allow that. And again, me included, they won't allow themselves to live in the moment. They're always thinking about the next thing. What's the next thing? That's why I love engaging in activities that force you to. You know, fighting, sparring. You have to be in the moment. You can't look off to the side. You can't say, oh, that's a good song. You know, the song that's playing in the background. You can't think about rent or you're going to make enough money. What's my bank account look like right now? What's my pay schedule? You know, you can't think about anything. There's a guy trying to punch you. There's a guy trying to kick you, choke you, wrestle you, something, right? You gotta react. You gotta figure out what the fuck. You gotta survive. You know, that's a sense of fight or flight, right? Are you gonna move? Are you gonna whatever? You have to be in tune. But that's something where you can't afford to not live in the moment. You can even drive now and not live in the moment. Back in the day when cars were stick shift, right? You had to pay attention. Before phones, you had to pay attention. Now, I can play on my phone. I can drive an hour away and play on my phone for like collectively 40 minutes of it. On the highway, the whole thing. Like, we've gotten better at that. I know I've gotten better at it. I can just play on my phone. And I don't give a fuck that I'm ratting myself out. You guys do it too. Play on your phone. You watch. I can watch a video on the phone. If I'm listening to something on YouTube, Chael Sonnen. I listen to a lot of Chael Sonnen because he breaks down fights and fighters and the fight game. He breaks it down so well. For those of you that don't listen to Chael Sonnen but you like MMA, please do yourself a favor and listen to Uncle Chael. But I can watch I can look at the video. Not staring at it, but I can look at it, right, for seconds at a time. And it's crazy because I remember specifically when I got my license and first started driving, I remember talking, and all my friends did. I remember being like, dude, how do people text and drive? I couldn't imagine doing that. And now I'm driving in rainstorms, record rainstorms, by the way, record-breaking rainstorms, powerful storms. People, you know, I'm driving with my car that's old, that shakes, that isn't great in the rain already. The lights are dim. One of my windshield wipers doesn't work. I'm playing on my phone. I'm high. I'm not paying attention. You know, and now I can do all that. It's like we've evolved to be able to not give a fuck when it comes to driving and engaging in other media. And it's only going to get worse, right? Once self-driving cars are perfected. And, I mean, Tesla's pretty fucking close to perfecting them, right? It's pretty much there. But you can fuck around, right? They have that big screen. You can watch a movie. You can do whatever the fuck you want. So it's only going to get worse. But even then, you don't need to, the moment has been altered. Where before driving, you have to pay attention to driving. Now you're driving, you don't have to pay attention to that. You can do other things, right? Screen in the Tesla, the whole thing. So it's, we have a big problem with living for now. You know, and if I had any advice to combat that, it would be to do things that force you to live in the moment, like comedy, right? Comedy, you have to be on the fly. Somebody says something to the crowd, your joke doesn't hit. You got to switch gears. You got to make the decision. Do I plow through? Do I switch to crowd work? Do I go on a rant? Like, if it's not working, sometimes you don't have to do that, but sometimes you do. And if you're not in tune with what the fuck's going on, then you're fucked. And then or even in the gym, lifting weights, fuck, dude. The best workouts I have is when I don't think about it. You don't think about it. You ever have those days where you're like, you think yourself out of going to the gym, right? Or you think yourself out of going on a run. You're like, yeah, well, I woke up a little late today, and my bag's not packed to go to shower at the gym, and it's just going to take too long, and I was hoping to do this at 2 o'clock, and if I go to the gym now, it's going to run too late and whatever. And you talk yourself out of it. The best times are when you just wake the fuck up or you get the fuck up and you go, and while you're lifting, you're not thinking about other shit. Like for me, the best times is when I put my phone in the locker. I don't keep my phone on me. Sometimes I do because I take long breaks in between sets because I'm trying to build strength. There's a tip for you. You want to build strength, you got to take long weights or long rests in between your sets. But anyway, and I'll fuck around on my phone for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And it's a bad habit because it makes my workout longer and it puts my mind on other things and whatever else. It's not great. It's not a good habit. My best workouts are when my phone is nowhere near me, locked away. All I'm worried about is lifting the weight. And, even just sitting there without your phone. You guys ever try to do that? You guys ever try to be in a place where everybody's on their phone? Maybe you ordered a pizza or something, and you get there early, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be another 10 minutes or 15 minutes." Or you're at a barber shop, and you're waiting for a chair to open up, and you're sitting there, and everyone's on their phone. Everybody's on their phone. Challenge yourself to not do that. It's harder than you think. It's harder than you fucking think. And you feel like you're in the past, right? You feel like you're in the fucking 90s or something. You're just sitting there. There's no TV. There's nothing, right? You're in a place where there's no option other than to just sit there. Try that. That shit's hard. It's hard. But that is an example of living in the moment, of being present and not worrying about some other shit. Because so often that's all we fucking do, man. I know I do it. I know I'm not the only one that fucking exists that way. And that's another thing. Being conscious of that fact that you're not the only one that thinks the way you do and feels the way you do. Everybody has similar emotions. I feel like I've said this before on this show as well. Everybody has similar goddamn emotions. Everyone feels things. They feel it different ways, but they feel the same thing. Everybody gets happy. Everybody gets glad, fucking angry. Everyone gets sad, excited. There's all different levels of them. But there's endless configurations of how you can feel a singular emotion. Forget about all the emotions. It's just endless. It's endless. There's endless ways to accept or combat a feeling that you have. And I think what puts people in ruts and what bothers people is that they feel alone in whatever they're feeling. They don't think anyone else has gone through it. And that's false. That's as false as a motherfucker can get. And, I'm not sure why I even got on this topic, but who gives a fuck, really? This is a big stream of consciousness episode. I didn't have a ton planned for this one. This is more me just kind of getting the words out, the word vomit that you guys are going to listen to. That's one thing I think I'm going to change going forward after these next. Once we come back in the spring, I'm wondering about shortening the episodes. I'm wondering about that. I'm going to try and ask you guys, get some kind of feedback on it. I don't know if a shorter episode is better, especially with it being just me and topics start to bleed into it. But there's always a theme, right? There's a theme to any podcast you listen to that they revisit or touch upon very regularly. So I'm not worried about repeating things that I've said or, I'm sure there's very few of you that listen to every single episode, right? And that's how it is with every podcast. But you do remember, like Joe Rogan talking about animals getting murdered, or Tim Dillon talking about the fall of civilization, right? Joey Diaz talking about him doing blow with hookers. And they tell the same stories. They talk about a lot of the same stuff, but it's because, that's part of who they are. You know, that's part of what's happening on the show. And if they're having conversations with different people, or the conversation stems from a different route than the last one did, even though you end up talking about the same thing, it's still interesting and it's still unique. But I'm thinking that maybe an hour of just me isn't as palatable as I thought. An hour's tough, guys. An hour's tough. I enjoy doing the hour because it works. It's like a workout for me. It's like a machine at the gym. You know, it helps. Like if let's take shoulder press, right? Barbell shoulder press. It's a pretty raw, dynamic fucking movement. Your whole body is being used, but it's big focus on the shoulders, obviously, and it's a big lift. It's an important lift, and it's one that you have to be careful with. You can't put a ton of weight on if you're not, whatever. But any other accessory lifts to help that, like on a machine or with dumbbells or something, all it does is help. So you got to do both if you want to build. So for me, stand-up is the shoulder press, but this podcast is like lateral raises or something, or, shrugs or some shit. Something that'll help the muscles around it, and but also help the main performance of the big hurrah, the fucking main lift. And that's how I look at this show. That's how I look at podcasting in general. That's why I enjoy doing the hour. I feel like the hour is kind of a standard thing, but then again, it's not, right? I don't listen to a ton of solo podcasts in general, other than Tim Dillon. I've listened to Bill Burr. I've listened to Joey Diaz, and they all do it differently. But they all go for an hour, right? They all go for an hour apiece. And what I forget is that they have dedicated fan bases. Tim Dillon in particular is incredibly talented at doing at ranting, and he's well read, and he knows a lot about a lot of shit. So he's good at that, and these people have fan bases that will listen to them for an hour. Whereas the smaller podcasts, which is something I guess I need to start listening to a little bit more often, maybe they don't go for a full hour. Maybe they go for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or 20 minutes, some of them. I used to only do 30 minutes when I still had guests, but now I just feel like I've been able to do an hour, and I feel like cutting down, it's weird. It's like an ego thing, if I'm being realistic. If I'm being real with you guys. It's like a weird ego thing in my head. Like I've gotten to the point where I can do an hour twice a week, more or less consistently. But is it palatable? Is it too much? I don't know. I have no fucking clue. Maybe it is. I'd like to experiment with different lengths. But it is. It's a great tool, and I would advise other aspiring comics or early on beginner comics to think about doing some kind of a podcast. Doesn't even need to be an hour. Doesn't need to be 2 hours a week like I do. Clearly. Right? It could be 15 minutes twice a week or whatever. It could be anything. I think it's better than not doing it. I think you just get better at speaking. I think it doesn't even need to be for comedians. It could be for anybody that has to give presentations, host seminars, public speaking, any of that shit. I think this is great for anything like that. Because you're forced kind of to do to have something for that allotted time every week. If you take it seriously, right? I take it seriously. So, going forward, we're going to experiment with the time a little bit. There was something else I wanted to mention about the podcast, and I don't exactly remember. Oh, no, something different. I wanted to relate it to the tool analogy of having a podcast to stand-up comedy. I think I'm going to be starting a Substack. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Substack, it is a platform for writers. A lot of journalists use it, freelance journalists that haven't been able, journalists that get canceled or journalists that can't find work, freelance, And it gives them an opportunity to make money. It's like Patreon for podcasts. Right, Patreon for podcasts. It's like a platform people can pay money to subscribe. It can be as little or as much as you want, as often, whatever. It's very user friendly. And Substack is a similar thing, where journalists go on and they write about things, or writers go on and they short stories or blogs or whatever. And blog is it sounds so stupid, right? I mean, this is kind of a blog, Substack, right? It is sort of a blog platform, I guess, but it just sounds so dumb. Like, blogs are like so 2005, right? Oh, blogging. I remember being a kid hearing people about blogs, talk about blogs and shit. I remember when I was a kid, my dad had this site that somebody told him about, and it was like a blog site where you write about whatever the fuck you want and you get paid. And I remember starting one for football, and I did it once or twice, and I made, fucking $2 or something, which is interesting, right? Because I didn't put any effort into it. I was a child, poorly fucking written, whatever, and I made like a couple bucks. So it's interesting that is kind of still rolling. But I'm starting a Substack mainly for the same reason that I do the podcast, just for the other aspect of stand-up, the writing aspect, right? This helps my performance, stage presence, speaking, helps that part. Substack will help me with my writing. Now, here's the thing that's similar between the podcast and the Substack is that sometimes I come on the show and it's not necessarily super funny. Like today's episode, probably not the funniest one you've ever heard. But I can come on here and I can still talk. And there's funny parts, right? But I'm still working out the muscle. That's what's important. I'm still working out the muscle. And there's thoughts here that I've conveyed to you guys that could turn into bits. And even then, worst case, I'm still working out the muscle. If it doesn't turn into anything at all, I'm still here talking and speaking to you motherfuckers. And I like to have the illusion that there's an audience. So that helps in that sense. And now writing on Substack, I'm not going to be on there writing jokes, right? Because that's pretty much all I write is jokes. I'm not someone who until recently has been trying to write things that aren't jokes. But as of recently, for whatever reason, I feel compelled to write about other stuff. And not necessarily anything groundbreaking. I'm not a writer. I like to think of myself as an artistic person, but I don't necessarily sit there and can write about things. I can't really write stories, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to try to write a piece every month. It's not going to be long. It's not going to be anything crazy. It could be, I'm leaving it kind of open-ended, but it's probably going to be what I do now, social commentary. That's how my comedy is. It's how the podcast is. So it's just going to be in writing form, and I'm not looking to build it into anything crazy. It's literally just a public format, a public forum where I can get some, not even feedback, but it's somewhere that I can put my ideas out on Front Street. And it kind of holds me accountable, right? If I make believe in my mind that there's people who subscribe to my Substack, which I'm not even worried about. I'm literally not thinking about becoming a writer or anything. I'm literally using it as an exercise. I don't look at it like I look at this podcast where eventually I want to build it to a place where I can make some money or whatever. I'm literally on there just writing. And it's called Absurd. Right, I've spoken on here about my chosen philosophy of absurdism and how just our very existence is very strange and all this shit. You don't need me to explain it. Read a book if you want to fucking know what absurdism is, because I've spoken about it ad nauseum on here. And if I have a guest in the future that's interested in talking about it, then you guys will hear it again. Or if I read another Camus book or Franz Kafka book or some shit, then you'll hear about it again. But it's going to be called Absurd. I already wrote a piece. I'm having trouble getting it uploaded. I don't know how to get it on there, but it's called Good Shit. That's the name of the first piece that I've written. And it's short. It's nothing crazy. Hopefully it's palatable in some sense, and hopefully it sounds good to some of you motherfuckers. And if it doesn't, then I don't care. It's going to be another thing. It's going to be another outlet of mine, just creating. And it's going to be a lot more lax. Like I said, once a month, nothing too crazy. And we're going to try and get it out there at some point. I'm not worried about a deadline. It just has to be there at some point in the month. And there you go. There's a new thing that's happening. I've also been exposed to, I guess, a level of production, right? I don't know if I could call myself a producer. I guess I've produced this show. But the Portland, Maine Comedy Festival series of videos that Raph and I have been working on will be coming out hopefully early in the new year. We've been working on it for a while. I know he's busy. I'm not. I mean, I'm busy as well, but he's got like a day job and shit, and he's got other people that he does videos for. So I obviously appreciate him. He's one of my really good friends, and I've been exposed to kind of having to make decisions on videos and how I want it to look and how I want the format to be and how I want to release it. And it's just, I think it's all good. I think it's good to not allow yourself to be just this one thing, right? Like a lot of the best artists are artistically inclined in other ways. Not all of them, right? A lot of the really good artists also are one-trick ponies, right? They've been doing the same thing for a really long time, and they're really good at it, right? They're not as innovative or groundbreaking or experimental, but they could be really fucking good at it, right? And they are still able to create within the confines of whatever techniques that they've perfected and gotten really good at and tightened up and whatever. But I mean, look at them all, right? I mean, Bill Hicks, he was a comedian, but he also played music, right? He played music. There's David Lee Roth was the lead singer of one of the wildest hair bands to ever exist, one of the biggest hair bands to ever exist, Van Halen, right? And that's music and performance and whatever else. But he also paints, right? It's interesting, right? You don't. It's so easy to say that I'm this and that's fucking it. I'm this. But you're not just that, right? There's something that you're kind of suppressing. There's something you've always wanted to try that you kind of just put on the back burner and whatever. And again, I'm not necessarily someone that's wanted to be a producer or whatever. I want to be a stand-up comedian. Definitely, that's my main gig. But I think doing other shit, other arts helps. It's just like the Book of Five Rings, right? You have to be as balanced as you can. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to love. You have to be able to work with your hands. You have to be able to work with your mind in different ways. Everything in different ways. Working with your hands has to include not only combat, empty-handed, but combat with a weapon. You have to be able to build things. You have to have a knowledge of being able to fix things and shit, right? Working with your hands in that sense, and then working with your mind, not only being able to do math and write music and play music and write poetry and write essays and all this shit, not only be able to do that, but to have enough knowledge of self to exist and to grow and to constantly refine whoever the fuck you are mentally. So you have to be able to have that capacity as well. And many people don't approach life that way. Many people aren't constantly revisiting the things that they've done and deciding if they don't take an objective view at what they're doing in their life. You know, and it's crazy because life is so subjective. It depends on what you do and your decisions and whatever else. But objectively, there are some things that we've accepted, right? That if whatever you're doing is good or bad, it's people refuse to take a back step and see where the chinks in their armor lie. So I don't know. I feel like that's a great way to approach life. Being someone who is constantly checking in on themselves. You know, checking in on yourself, checking in on whether the decisions you're making are beneficial or not. Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating the right way? Are you exercising enough? Are you not worrying about exercise because you got other shit to worry about? You know, it's how the fuck do you live not doing that? How do you live not doing that? I don't understand. I don't know any other way, guys. I don't know any other way. Maybe you guys can inform me. And I'm sure that it's an easier life by not doing that, right? What's the quote? An unexamined life is a life wasted. But it's an easy motherfucking life, You don't got to worry about a motherfucking thing. You're not worried about anything at all. And I agree, you shouldn't worry. Worry is bad. But if you don't worry every once in a while, does anything get done? If you're not worried, I mean, too much worry, yes. You shouldn't be perpetually worried. Oh, God, here we go. And that's what they want, right? That's what the powers that be, they want us to be consistently worried. Wow. It has gotten very dark on the video, and I apologize for anyone watching on YouTube. Not really, because there's not a lot of you, so I could really care less about who's watching on YouTube. But it has gotten very dark, and I think that now is a good time to wrap up. And it is Monday. It is almost the end of the fucking year, guys. And I think I want to get to 260 before we go on our big break. So I think we're going to drop a couple bonus episodes for you guys. I don't have any prediction of when, why, or how. Of course, we'll have an episode on Thursday. Maybe we'll do another one on Tuesday, another one on Wednesday, or we'll skip Wednesday and have one for Friday. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm working a lot extra this week, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be a busy fucking week, but I like to round out the year with some good old fashioned elbow grease, hard fucking work. I'm working a little extra at my job, so that's going to make comedy a little tough and whatever else. But and we're going to bang out 2 extra podcasts this week because, like I said, I'm not going to be talking to you guys for a few months, so you're going to have to catch up on old shit and whatever else. But that's it, motherfuckers. I'm done. Dates, like I said, January 5th, which is it's next week, actually. January 5th. It's a Thursday. I will be at Mohegan Sun Comics Roadhouse. We're going to try and redeem ourselves one last time because the last time I did that show, I bombed horribly. And we're going to try and redeem ourselves and not embarrass ourselves in front of all of our friendly co-workers. So that's it, motherfuckers. I'm done. Talk to you probably tomorrow. Yeah, fuck it. Let's say tomorrow. Peace.
Oh, me again. Follow the show. Subscribe on the YouTube. Buy me a coffee. Use the links. Bye-bye.